levies user fees on people who play pickup hockey on municipal rinks, on car owners who park their vehicles on roads or on paths, on anyone who seeks to apply for a building permit. There's a user fee levied for the water we bring into the house. The TTC relies on user fees, also known as transit fares, to finance the bulk of ongoing operations. Every year, the city spends $18 million to maintain and repair the Gardiner Expressway and the Don Valley Parkway. According to current traffic volumes, that works out to about 20 cents a trip, or for someone who commutes every day, $80 annually, which is less than the price of a monthly Metro Pass. If the city feels justified in levying so many other types of user fees on its citizens, why would we not charge those who drive on these two highways a cost?
There are not a lot of commuters on the Don Valley Parkway in this room. To me, it's pretty simple. The city isn't set up yet right to accommodate that. And what I mean by that is in London, England, which is the example always given to me, you have an extensive network of transit that gives everybody who wants to take a car a real choice. That is not true in the Greater Toronto area. It's not even true in the City of Toronto. If you live in Northwest Scarborough or Northeast Etobicoke, you don't have a real choice. And that is a fundamental problem if you're going to start charging tolls, which is really what your question is about. Because what will happen is there are people who can't choose, so it's inequitable because they can't choose to take transit. The point of tolls, from my perspective, from public policy point of view, is not necessarily a revenue source, is to try and drive people to public transit, and if the choice isn't there, you can't do it. Secondly, the way Toronto's laid out, people who are coming down the Don Valley will go on Don Mills or Victoria Park or somewhere else as a choice, and it will create significant traffic issues in local neighborhoods in those communities. So, and the same on the Gardiner. So I don't think, and I've had 3 years to think about this very in depth, as people know. I just don't think the timing's right to do that kind of thing in our city. And finally, drivers do pay a user fee of a sort, which is called the gas tax. And we've finally been getting a share of that to invest in public transit in this city through our negotiations with the Paul Martin government. Minister John Godfrey was a terrific friend of Toronto, and Premier Dalton McGuinty. So the gas tax does charge every driver on a per kilometer basis, and it is now being invested in public transit. So it is doing what you want. So, well, I'm not going to bring in tolls. So I know some people in this room want them, but I just don't agree for the reasons I said.
Okay, I'm going to ask another question about tolls.
Yes.
You've often stated that Bill Davis, David Peterson, and Bob Ray all supported a previous subsidy program whereby the province paid 75% of the TTC's capital costs and half of its operating deficit. If one calculates what the TTC would have received during your term under the old system, it would have come out to about $438 million more than the city has received from the various federal and provincial transit programs introduced over the same period. You said in 2003 that you would be forced to consider tolls if the other orders of government, quote, failed to make their proper contribution. A $438 million shortfall over 3 years sounds like they failed to make their proper contribution. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree. I look at the glass being more than half full, because immediately before I was mayor, there was nothing. There was a one-time $76 million investment by the federal government. That was it. And in the last 3 years, we've negotiated hundreds of millions of dollars in public transit funding. And it's been critically important. That's why we have the largest hybrid bus fleet in Canada. And I'm very proud of that. That's why we have all of our diesels now run on biodiesel. That's why we're in the midst of replacing half the bus fleet and adding 100 new buses to provide new service in underserviced routes. But in the end, if we truly want the TTC to meet the needs of a growing city, yes, we need that additional $438 million and more. You know, the Bloor subway was built through 75% provincial funding. The University subway line was built through 75% provincial funding. And we're not going to be able to grow our transit system properly, whether it's through bus roads and streetcar right-of-ways, as we're going to start doing, or subways in selected places, unless we get back to that. And that's why in my opening remarks I mentioned a national transit strategy. You know, Canada in a lot of ways, is way behind the rest of the world. Most parts of the world are understanding you have to invest in cities for your countries to succeed. Paul Martin and John Godfrey got that, and we started to make strides. You know, if you want to address climate change, and you want to address equality, and you want to address economic opportunity, public transit provides all of those. That's why I believe governments from, you know, China all the way through Europe and the United States are investing in public transit. I think the good news is Canadians are starting to recognize this. The good news is there's an alliance between mayors across Canada. Like the mayor of Montreal and I work very closely together. So the good news is we may be able to bridge that gap. And it's the #1 demand of mayors across Canada. You know, Minister Flaherty even spoke to the Canadian Urban Transit Association today, and I think few of us would have thought that was likely when they got elected. So we're making progress, and I think we can do it.
So why no subways?
No money.